I had my eyes on him for 4 weeks and he has not looked at me once because he's a coward, and that's exactly what he is.
Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome back to CASE Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing with regular uploads every week. Please do join the quickly growing, incredibly supportive CASE family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Thank you so much to all of my patrons. If your name is on screen right now, then you're a legend. Our love and respect goes out to all those that knew and loved Ellie and all those affected by this dark case. Elle Marlene Edwards was born on May 10th, 1996 in New Brighton. New Brighton is a peaceful community known for its vibrant beachfront and welcoming atmosphere. She was a popular beautician and a dental nurse. Ellie was described by her father as radiant. She had the kind of smile that could brighten any room and any day. She also had a habit of offering warm embraces and checking up on people. Her hugs had the power to uplift even the gloomiest of days. Her infectious laughter guaranteed that anyone in her company would have a good time, and she embraced life with enthusiasm and positivity. She had a lot of dreams that she pursued, and she was on the cusp of making them all come true, basking in the happiest phase of her life. With a magnetic personality, she had an ability to make people fall in love with her upon first meeting. On December 24th, 2022, 26-year-old Elle Edwards was celebrating Christmas Eve with her sister and friends at the Lighthouse Inn in Wallasey Village, Merseyside. During Christmas, Wallasey Village comes alive with the spirit of the season. The town's strong sense of tradition and community makes it a particularly special place at this time of year. Locals and visitors alike join in the spirit of the season, dancing, singing, and sharing in the joy of the holiday. On that evening, Lucy Edwards, her sister and her friends were in high spirits, singing along to the Christmas classics inside the pub. Just before midnight, Ellie went outside for a cigarette. While the rest of her group were at the bar getting drinks, they suddenly heard loud bangs. Initially, everyone thought they were fireworks. Not the most unusual thing to hear on Christmas Eve. However, in mere moments, Ellie collapsed on the floor. Jess, a friend of Ellie, recalled that everything happened in a blur. She and the rest of Ellie's friends wished they could have done more, but they soon realised there was nothing else to be done. A woman tried to perform CPR on Ellie as she lay breathless, but it was in vain. Heartbreaking footage captured her final moments, showing her warmly greeting friends with hugs and a radiant smile. Despite efforts to save her, she was pronounced dead on Christmas Day at Arrow Park Hospital. The stark contrast from one moment to the next is almost unimaginable. Elle Edwards was formally identified by her father, Tim Edwards. The post-mortem examination revealed the extent of Elle Edwards' injuries which were very clearly non-survivable. She had been struck twice in the back of her head. One projectile passed through her skull and brain, exiting just above her right eye, while the second projectile pierced her skull and entered her brain. All necessary pathological examinations had been completed. This allowed Ellie's body to be released to her family so they could make arrangements for her funeral. The funeral was held on January 25th, 2023 at St Nicholas Church in Wallasey. Hundreds of people laid flowers and watched the funeral procession pass through the streets. The service was attended by those close to Ellie. And all of this because on Christmas Eve, a day that was supposed to be filled with joy and happiness, an innocent life was taken in front of hundreds of happy people. It was later discovered that Elle Edwards was simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. A mixed DNA profile was found on a bullet casing recovered at the scene. Additionally, this same DNA was detected on a glove recovered at someone's house. and this glove matched the red gloves worn by the gunman as captured on CCTV from the Lighthouse pub. The DNA belonged to none other than 23-year-old Connor Chapman. He was later tracked down and arrested whilst at Tesco's in Newtown. This is that footage. In fact, the day that he shot Ellie marks the first Christmas in 5 years that Connor Chapman had not been behind bars. Chapman was raised in Birkenhead's rugged Woodchurch estate. He was a persistent troublemaker from his early teenage years. By the time he was 14, he had already appeared in courts for shoplifting, and at just 15, his criminal record included convictions for offences such as burglary, assault, and possession of an offensive firearm. His social media presence from that period was littered with scarcely legible complaints. Complaints about having to wear an ankle monitor, also known as a tag. On his 15th birthday, Chapman posted, "Proper devoed," short for devastated, "am on tag, would have rather add messy one, will, or with, the lads." 2 months later, he wrote, "4 days left on this tag." A friend of his cautioned him, "You just behave yourself when it's gone, young man." But, of course, Connor Chapman did anything but. On that fateful day, Chapman had lurked outside the pub in Wallasey Village. He laid in wait for nearly 3 hours before using a military-grade weapon, a weapon capable of firing 15 rounds per second. During the trial, a video was presented that depicted the horrifying events. In the video, it was evident that 5 men and Ellie were injured when Connor Chapman opened fire with this Scorpion submachine gun. After the attack, Chapman fled the scene in a stolen black Mercedes A-Class. He eventually reached the residence of Thomas Waring in Barnston. Waring was born on September 30th, 2002, and at the time of the offence, he was just 20 years old. Waring then arranged for a taxi to transport Chapman, and this taxi allegedly took him back to his home in Woodchurch. The shooting was a culmination of a series of retaliatory actions between rival groups, different gangs from the Woodchurch and Ford estates situated on opposite sides of the M53 in Wirral. These confrontations included assaults, burglaries, and previous shootings. The jury learned that Chapman, who lived on Houghton Road in Woodchurch, wanted to take the lives of 2 of the men injured in the shooting. The men were Kieran Salkeld and Jake Duffy, both from the Beechwood area. Salkeld and Duffy were from a rival gang who had assaulted Chapman's associate, a man named Sam Searson, just the day before. This is the video from that assault, but I can't really show you it. Both Duffy and Salkeld suffered serious injuries in the shooting. The 3 other men injured in the attack were not connected to the feud at all, just like Ellie. Nigel Power, KC, the prosecutor, revealed that Connor Chapman had recorded a rap video whilst in custody the previous year. He was inside following an aggravated burglary at his mother's residence. In the video, he said, "If I make it out of here, I'm due to become famous because if you touch one of mine, I'll leave your soul on the pavement." He also said, "I know I've been a scumbag, but I'm proud of that." During the trial, Connor Chapman firmly denied being the shooter, but a combination of CCTV footage and evidence from mobile phone cell towers was presented to confirm his role in the attack. He faced a series of convictions related to the tragic events surrounding Elle Edwards. He was found guilty of Ellie's murder. This was as well as the attempted murder of Kieran Salkeld and Jake Duffy, and wounding with the intent to cause grievous bodily harm against the other men injured in the attack. He was also convicted of assaulting another man, which resulted in actual bodily harm. He also faced charges of possession of a firearm and possession of ammunition with the intent to endanger life. This was specifically concerning the Scorpion submachine gun. He had also pleaded guilty to 1 count of handling stolen goods. This was in relation to the stolen Mercedes used during the incident. During the sentencing, the judge addressed Connor Chapman and Thomas Waring. He said, "You, Chapman, were very actively involved in the Woodchurch gang, while you, Waring, were associated with it. The violence within this feud included shootings and generated significant concerns for the people of Merseyside. On December the 23rd last year, one of your associates was attacked by Kieran Solkeld and Jake Duffy, and you decided to seek revenge. The judge then described how Chapman prepared for the act of violence. He wore dark clothes, a mask and gloves, and avoided the security cameras in the neighborhood. He then said, "You waited for almost 3 hours in the car park, close to the front door where you hid inside your stolen car, waiting for your moment. Just before midnight, you burst forward to fire the submachine gun. Elle Edwards lost her life instantly, and you injured 5 others. Any of them could have easily lost their lives as well." Connor Chapman received a life sentence with a minimum of 22 years each for the attempted murders of Kieran Solkeld and Jake Duffy. These sentences will run concurrently with the 48-year minimum term for the murder of Elle Edwards. This results in a total minimum sentence of 48 years. Chapman has 2 children, one of whom he has never met. These children will be middle-aged by the time he is potentially released. As Chapman was led away from the courtroom, Tim Edwards, Ellie's father, maintained a steadfast gaze on him in the dock. The judge concluded proceedings and Chapman was then escorted to the cells. An emotional outburst was heard from Ellie's family members in the public gallery. They expressed anger and disgust directed towards Chapman as they said, "See you later," and "scumbag," although being a scumbag seems to be something he was proud of. His co-defendant Thomas Waring was sentenced to 9 years in prison for possessing a prohibited weapon and for assisting an offender. His assistance included helping to burn out the stolen Mercedes, the car used in the commission of the murder. Regarding the charges of possession of a prohibited weapon, a crime which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years, the judge referred to the 5-year minimum term that applies due to the nature of this offence. He argued that there was no reason to disapply this minimum term. This was given the high culpability because of the way Waring possessed a firearm. He essentially helped Connor Chapman avoid detection. The judge also addressed the charge of assisting an offender. This has a starting range of 6 to 8 years with a maximum of 10 years. This charge was related to the involvement in burning the car used in the attack. The judge noted that Waring had failed to comply with a disclosure notice, a charge to which he had admitted. He emphasized the seriousness of this offence, as it was an attempt to obstruct the investigation into Elle Edwards' murder. Elle lost her life due to Waring and Chapman's vengeful actions, and her family will never fully come to terms with this devastating tragedy. Her grandmother, Susan Edwards, expressed in her impact statement that Elle was very, very special to her and she had been her best friend. She lamented, "If I were to die tomorrow, the coroner would write on my certificate, cause of death. She died of a broken heart." She emphasized how much she misses her angel princess. Connor Edwards, Ellie's older brother, also spoke about his sister during the proceedings. He understandably found it incredibly difficult to talk about her. Elle was planning to cook Christmas dinner for the first time with their mother. When they spoke on the night that her life was taken, Elle said that she was with a friend, and Connor wished her a good night. He shared that they had many happy memories growing up, even though they had typical sibling arguments. Elle had a way of making people feel good about themselves. Connor mentioned that he has a young son who always asks about Elle. When he sees pictures of her, he points to the sky. He describes how their family is struggling with Ellie's absence. Their mother especially is heartbroken. Elle and her mother had a very special relationship, and Elle was always there to help. She was a fun, caring person who brought happiness to everyone she met. On the night of the shooting, Connor woke up to terrible news. He went to their parents' house and had to tell his dad that Elle had been struck in the head. When they reached the hospital, they learned that Elle had already passed away. In that moment, their lives were shattered. Despite the tragedy, Connor had to put on a happy face for his son on Christmas Day. He says that Elle didn't deserve what happened to her. Every day he goes to bed and wakes up feeling the pain of losing his sister. Christmas was always a special time for their family. They always spent it together. Losing Ellie during the holidays was incredibly difficult. However, the family remained strong and united. Brother Connor concluded by saying he loves and misses Ellie, and he will cherish the 26 years that they had together. Do you think the punishments fit the crimes here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Please do let me know down in the comments. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.